The winter wind off Edo Bay came thin and metallic, like a blade drawn from a scabbard. I warmed my hands over the charcoal brazier and watched steam thread from the kettle, listening for the footfalls that always came before dawn. Paper walls here too much. That is why printers rise early. We know every whisper of our alley off Nyanbashi, the fishmongers sloshing buckets, the Doshan patrol tapping their jit on the stones, the hush before a fire bell. That morning, a different rhythm, a procession at night when only cats and debts move. I slid the door and stepped into the blue dark lane. Lanterns moved like two fireflies in tandem. Bearers in straw rain-capes shouldered a small palanquin, too plain for a daimyo wife, too careful for a drunk merchant. Their leader, a man with a voice trained to command, murmured, "Make way!" I flattened against the eave. Waroji scratched past. As the palanquin tilted, the curtain lifted a finger's breadth. I saw a woman's hand, bound at the wrist with braided cord. The knot was the neat work of someone who tied their livelihood. The leader saw my glance. We held each other's eyes just long enough for me to understand two things. He was a samurai, and he would remember my face. When they turned the corner, I let my breath out and went back inside. The shop smelled of damp cherrywood and rice paste. Carved blocks lay stacked like graves. I am Kobayashi Jiro, a carver for Hirakodo's workshop, a minor press that pays its taxes on time and obeys the Mokibagus edicts on indecency. We make actors look glorious and merchants look respectable. We also make paper talismans for fishermen who fear storms more than taxes. By sunrise, the city shook itself awake. Porters shouted prices. Sawyers' saws sang. My apprentice, Tatsu, arrived chewing a pickled plum and talking with his mouth full. "You hear the bell last night?" "No. They say there was a body pulled from the Nyanbashi Canal at first light." "A woman." My hands slowed. "Who says?" "The tofu seller's cousin's wife," he grinned. "Which is to say, everyone." I did not tell him what I'd seen. Instead, I set the day's work. A kabuki bill, an actor's fierce grimace, teeth like rice grains. My gouge traced the curve of the lip. Wood yields to rhythm. You can cut grief away the same way you cut shadow, in thin, patient shavings. Before noon a Metsuke, one of the shogun's eyes, ducked under our lintel. He wore two swords but spoke softly, as if words were a separate blade he preferred. He examined the shop, the blocks, the sloppy sweepings Tatsu had failed to gather. "You are Kobayashi Jiro?" "Yes." He nodded toward the canal. A woman was found bound and drowned. She had ink under her nails and cherry splinters in the beds of two fingers. A printer's shop, perhaps. Tatsu went white. I bowed. "Many labsa, many hands bear ink in this ward, honored inspector." "True," he said. Yet she had a travel permit tucked in her sash, issued by the Osaka magistracy, stamped for passage on the Takeda. Why would a traveler drown before she saw the morning gate? He studied my face, then the callus on my thumb from pressing paper. "If anyone comes asking for blocks to be destroyed, call at the Minami Mokibugyosho. Ask for Inspector Konda." As he left, he paused at the threshold and, without quite smiling, said, "The city remembers faces, Kobayashi." "Do you?" I said I did. But the face I feared remembering was my own reflection in black water. Inspector Konda's name sat behind my teeth like a bitter herb. It kept me from speaking when customers trickled in. Two fishmongers arguing about the price of sardine talismans, a courier ordering placards warning of pickpockets near Yoshiwara, a young samurai who wanted a family crest cut on cheap Polonia. We worked, we bowed, we scraped. The woman's hand kept returning to me, pale as the belly of a carp, cord biting the skin. Near dusk, Hirakodo himself shuffled from the back, sleeves tucked, ledger in hand. He was a merchant who remembered each koku he had not been allowed to display. "Jiro," he murmured without looking at me, "a special order arrived last night. A series of 12 landscape prints for a patron of standing. Cherry blocks only, rush work, no apprentices to touch them. If we deliver by the 17th, there is a bonus." He slid me the sketches, bleak winter scenes along the Takado, Hakone Pass veiled in snow, travelers hunched under straw hats, the bridge at Nyanbashi rendered with feverish attention to its crossbeams. I recognized the draftsman's hand. Kashiwagi, a painter with a temper. What I did not recognize was the pattern of tiny notches inked along the lower margins, imperfections too deliberate to be accidental. "Where did this come from?" I asked. "A courier at the Dawn Gate. No name, only a down payment that smelled of new rice," Hirokoto said, then lowered his voice. "And the suggestion that the Moki Bugyo would appreciate our haste. We began that night. Tatsu slept on a coil of straw rope, and I carved until the brazier's coals turned the color of old persimmons. Cherry is dense. It wants to teach you patience." As I cleaned the negative spaces between bridge planks, my blade kissed something buried shallowly beneath the surface. A harder vein in the wood. No, the click was too crisp. I pried with my awl and lifted a sliver. A grain-sized pellet fell into my palm. I rolled it on the floorboards. It left a faint black trail. Sumi ink does not travel in pellets. Opium sometimes does. I closed my fist and listened to the night. Far away, a bell tolled 7. I pressed the pellet into a crack between 2 floorboards and covered it with ash from the hearth. Then I took the block to the rain barrel and washed it as if I had cut too deep and bled on it. In the ripples, the lantern light broke into coins. Kashiwagi arrived unannounced, smelling of sake and wet silk. "How goes our snow?" he slurred, peering at the block. His eyes slid to the rinsed wood, to the damp on my sleeves. "Careful, Kobayashi. The lines will swell." "The lines will hold," I said. He set a wrapped parcel on the table and, in a tone loud enough for Tatsu, pronounced, "My patron is a man of influence. If you finish by the 17th, a banquet at Yoshiwara awaits, with music and soft sleeves. If not, he prefers not to be disappointed. Preference can be a sharp thing." After he left, Tatsu whispered, "Master, did you see?" "I saw," I said too quickly. We worked until the snows began outside, light at first, then thickening until the alley blurred and the world felt muffled, as if someone had slid paper between us and the city. When I finally lay down, sleep pulled me like a river. The woman's hand reached from the water. As it opened, black pellets spilled from her palm and bounced like seeds across Nyanbashi. The bell kept tolling somewhere far. Snow remade Edo by morning. Drays left shallow grooves like brushstrokes. The Minomi Moki Bugyo posted notices warning of roof falls and thieves with warm hands. I tucked the smallest of the new blocks under my sleeve and set out, telling Tatsu to keep the brazier fed and his mouth shut. Near Nyanbashi, samurai from a daimyo's Sankenkotai procession stamped their feet, sullen at the delay. Porters sold hot tea to keep the lines from fraying. Edo is a city held together by staring and rules. The magistrate's office smelled of damp straw and ink. A line of petitioners hunched like question marks. I did not wait. I told the clerk I had a message for Inspector Konda and let the fear show in my face. It is a kind of currency. They ushered me into a side room where Konda sat with his swords unsheathed, not as a threat, simply drying their lacquer near a brazier. "What trouble are you carrying?" he asked. I laid the block on the mat. "Your dead woman had cherry splinters in her nails. This block held a pellet." There may be more. He turned the block, watching the grain. His nail traced the tiny margin notches. Printer's register marks run regular. These do not. 5, 3, 2, 9. A code, I said. Perhaps for drop points. He stood. Walk with me. We went out into the white light. In a tea stall beside the Sumida, he spoke without looking at me. Dejima brings Dutch books, glass, medicines, and opium. Most is for physicians. Some feeds other mouths. The shogunate bans it, yet men of rank overspend on processions and roofs. Debts want payment. He tipped his chin toward the river. Boats shouldered ice. Your painter, Kashiwagi, is attached to a Hatamoto house with a ledger in pain. If I move too soon, their crest shields them. If I move too late, bodies rise. So I wait. I cultivate eyes. You want me to keep carving, I said. I want you to finish these 12 and bring me any pellets. In return, I can make problems bend. What if their leader recognizes me? He saw me. Kashiwagi, the samurai who led a palanquin before dawn. A bound hand. Konda's face barely moved. Names are costly. Keep yours in your pocket. We separated near Fukagawa. I returned to the shop by back lanes and, out of habit, bought dried sardines for Tatsu. He was not there. The brazier had been pushed hard. Ash feathered the air. The parcel Kashiwagi had left now sat open, paper folds torn by a clumsy hand. Inside lay not silk but a second set of sketches, 12 interiors, each a room in different Edo wards, with precise attention to shutters and locks. The margins sang again with notches. 3, 1, 4, 1, 5. Tatsu stumbled in through the side door, scarfed with snow. His face carried the look of someone told 3 things at once. Master, men were here asking for you. They said you were expected tonight at Yoshiwara, that Kashiwagi would introduce you to the patron. They smelled like iron. Did you open this? I asked, lifting the sketches. He shook his head, then hesitated, only to see the art. Which door did they use? The back. Then they know our habits. I slid the sketches into the parcel, tightened my sash, and told Tatsu to visit his mother across the river and stay there. If anyone asks, the shop is closed for mourning. He swallowed. For whom? I said. We will decide in the morning. Lock the shutters tight. Yoshiwara in snow is a lantern on its own small sea. Drifts muffled the clatter. Gates shone like lacquer. Runners had tamped a path to a nagiya, and their Kashiwagi waited in a robe too fine for his temperament. Kobayashi, he purred, sobriety pasted over his skin. Our patron appreciates artisans who know when not to ask questions. Come. Tatami smelled new. Attendants moved as if on rails. The banquet had begun. 3 actors, 2 merchants who pretended not to know each other, and a samurai with a shaved pate and a careful smile. His crest marked him as a Hatamoto's chief retainer. I knew his voice from the alley. He knew me. Surprise became amusement. Kashiwagi speaks highly of your hands, he said. I carve what I am paid to carve, I said. He nodded, and a tray appeared with a scroll, the first proof from our new blocks. Snow on Hakone, Nyanbashi's bridge, margin notches like small teeth. 12 prints, he said. 12 rooms. A quiet winter. And the woman? I asked. Travel is hazardous, he said. From the next room came shamisen and a thin song. I unrolled a second proof, Nyanbashi again, but 2 changes. Hairline scratches on the crossbeam, and the notches now read 2953. Kashiwagi blinked. The retainer did not. "Explain," he said. "I found pellets in cherry," I answered. "I feared swelling would warp the lines. So I cut a second set with a different register. Those sheets began drying this morning in a warehouse near Nyanbashi." Silence pressed flat. The retainer rose. "You will take me there." "That would spoil the banquet," someone said. Inspector Konda slid in with 3 doshin, snow still melting on their sleeves. "Good evening." The retainer's hand hovered near his short sword. Even here, Yoshiwara's rules made blood expensive. Konda bowed to me as if we shared pickles. "Kobayashi, thank you for your message." I had sent none. Tatsu stepped from behind Konda, hair thawing into spikes, eyes too big for his face. He bowed. "Master, I thought you might need help remembering faces." Kashiwagi sagged. The retainer laughed once, without mirth. "The shogun's eyes recruit children now." "Eyes come in many sizes," Konda said. He signaled. The doshin opened the Agiya's store chest. Inside lay 5 cherry blocks, hollowed with careful channels. Pellets rattled like seeds in a gourd. Hirakodo was taken near the bathhouse. He had moved coin across ledgers with the same neatness he moved proofs. Kashiwagi tried the roof and slid into bamboo, which does not forgive. The retainer walked with Konda as if to a tea ceremony. Later I heard his lord paid a fine and lost 2 storehouses. Crests bend slowly. When Konda returned my blocks, he asked for no thanks. He only glanced at Tatsu. "He will be safer apprenticed in Osaka for a time," he said. "Nagasaki eyes are long. Edo remembers faces." We packed tools in oiled paper. Before dawn, we left by the water gate. The canal was dull as paper under snow. I held the memory of the woman's bound hand as a man holds a blade he cannot draw. Perhaps she had been a courier for one side or the other. Perhaps a lover in a ledger. The city would not say. We walked toward the Takedo White. Tatsu asked what song the notches finally sang. "A simple one," I said. "Keep breathing. Keep your hands clean. Carve true, even when the wood would have you lie." Behind us, Edo exhaled smoke, counting coins as dawn unstitched the night into light.